Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Amateur Hour Sports, or the Jacob Gramegna channel, whatever you want to call it, for today's Raptors Happy Hour live stream. We are here for the Friday Happy Hour. We're gonna cover everything around the Toronto Raptors over the last few days, and just in general for today's live stream. We're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for shows just like this, where we talk all things about the team, and we chat with you, we answer questions, and all of that great stuff. Plus, we do watch-alongs for Raptors games. Get subscribed to the channel if you're new. Drop a like if you enjoy this one along the way. Lots to discuss on today's show. We're going to be looking into the recent win over the Chicago Bulls. As much as it was a win where the Raptors only trailed very briefly, it wasn't a super convincing win against a not super great team that they played against. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about why there are still issues present with the offense, which were very, very much on display in that win over the Bulls. What the Raptors are lacking, what can they do maybe to fix it. We're going to look into some possible changes that the NBA is exploring to try and solve tanking. Now, this is a topic that we've covered already on the show, but I want to go a little bit further now because, of course, like I said, the NBA has implemented or has looked into implementing some new rules. So we're going to go through what those potential rules are and regulations are, and react to see if they can actually fix things. And we're also today going to discuss a player that is really not playing up to scratch for the Raptors this season, giving them some issues, and if maybe a change is needed for the Raptors. If all that sounds good, we're going to get started here today. Thank you again for joining me. Hopefully everyone has had a good Friday. We've got Adam H. and Blaze 45YT in the chat joining us nice and early. Wow, I mean, Friday I've been working quite a lot since I got home, but I was out watching the Olympic hockey a little bit earlier on. Oh my God. I mean, the Czech game was a nail biter. This one, honestly, it wasn't, to me, this one wasn't as much of a nail biter. So Canada men's hockey, if you don't know, I hope if you're, at least, maybe not every Raptors fan is Canadian, but if you're a Canadian, I would certainly hope that you watch this game, or at least we're aware of its existence. We're following it along in some capacity. But Canada wins 3-2. They were down 2-0. They were down 2-0 in this game, down 1-0 after one, and then just absolutely dominated that game from that point on. Absolutely dominated. But they gave away a bad goal on the power play. So a shorthanded goal for the Finns early on in the second period. But like just obliterated them from that point on. Just struggled to really break that team down. Finland were playing very defensive, as you know, they went up 2-0. But in the end, Canada, they score in the second. They score a couple in the third. One very late from Nathan McKinnon. And they get through to the gold medal game. Wow, guys, this was again. It wasn't it was nervy. It wasn't as nervy, as I said, as that Czech game, because like the Czech game, wow, it was like looking bleak, like it was done. But thankfully, they did enough early on to make this comeback happen. And to be honest, I always felt. Just getting a phone charger. I always felt relatively confident in this one, even when they were down 2-0. Like I acknowledged there was a distinct possibility of a loss, no question. But I felt pretty good that they were able to do it at that point. Now that's respect, not necessarily disrespect, sorry, to Finland. It's a respect for like how good the Canadian team is. But I felt like they were capable of doing it, and yes, they were able to do it. They honestly, I thought they played quite well. Darko Rajaković says absolutely need to play better Sunday, but I'm pumped. I thought they played pretty well. Maybe played a bit soft in the first period, but were great from that point onwards. Just let in a bad goal to start the second, but were like excellent from that point. Maybe weren't like super clinical. Maybe didn't. I mean, I'm no hockey expert. Felt like they were like clearly on top. Finland only had 3 shots in the second period. They only had 17 shots in the game. They had I think they had 9 shots in the last 2 periods. So felt like Canada deservedly won this game. As for, the U.S., though, as we're seeing here, pretty resounding from the United States in their current semifinal against Team Slovakia. Wow. This is they are running through the Slovaks. They are running through the Slovaks here. Look at this. 5-0, man. So it looks very much like it'll be Canada-US in the gold medal game. I got asked by one of my friends that I was watching the game with, would I rather play Slovakia or the United States? It was an interesting question. Honestly, the answer kind of just turned into I'm okay with either. I would obviously rather beat the United States in the gold medal game, but it is much less likely that Canada will beat the United States compared to beating Slovakia. That's not to be disrespectful to Slovakia, but I mean they are down 5-0 here. Canada will be favored against the U.S. in that gold medal game, so I don't think it's disrespectful to say. So either or, this is really like a privileged position where I'm a fan of a team that just gets to do this a lot and play in the final a lot. Raptors have done it once in their history. The Jays have done it once in the last 30 years. The Giants haven't gotten to Super Bowl in a while. The Maple Leafs haven't been in a long, long time, as we know, to the Stanley Cup. So, I talk about when the Jays got to the World Series, how Dodgers fans just don't even care because it's just well, if we don't win it this year, we'll just win it next year. We'll be okay, right? As for Canada hockey, we do this every 4 years. Yeah, we'll probably come back and do it again. So we can be a little bit selective. I'd like to play the best team because we can still beat them, and it would be a lot more fulfilling type of mindset. But doesn't mean that we're guaranteed to beat anybody. But it's just it would be a lot sweeter to beat the United States in the gold medal game. But it looks like we are going to get them there. So I'm excited to watch that. It's a shame it's so early on Sunday. I've tried to get in a reservation at a lot of places. If anyone in the chat is in Toronto and of a place that's got this game on that is taking reservations, let me know. Because I called a ton of places right after the semifinal, and no one was taking reservations either because they weren't taking reservations or because they were already booked full, which was pretty great. Even the place I was in was already booked full for the gold medal game. So I guess people did that in advance. Anyways, I'm looking forward to the gold medal game. And hey, Canada men's curling is in the final tomorrow. That should be a fun one. That should be a fun one as well. Looking forward to it. Dare to go to chat. To be fair, Finland sat back for 30 minutes. They really did. They got a 2-goal lead and said, you know what? We're probably good. We're not probably good, but let's make this good. Let's make this work for us. And I guess they got close in a way. They had some chances late. They had a couple breaks. In the third period, when it was 2-1, they had a couple really good chances. If one of those goes in, it's over, right? A huge sports bar in Vaughan. I'm not going to Vaughan. Real Sports. I could go to Real Sports, I suppose. That'd be quite a trip. I don't think I'll do that, but that is a good point. That's a pretty safe option, I'd say. Around 8 is a Real Sports by Scotiabank Arena. Yeah, that's fair. All right, good point. Anyways, we'll dig into we'll get off hockey. We'll get into the Raptors side of things here. Not sure if this is going to go the full hour on the stream today, but the more questions that come in, the longer I'll be on as well. But just, we played one game since the All-Star break. Not a whole lot of new information is coming out about the team. But we still kind of got some insight into, where there's still some problems lie, where there are still questions about the team because of that game against the Bulls, which we'll get into in just a moment here. Raptors need better defense. I don't know if you watched the game yesterday. Defense was fine, I think. Defense was okay. Raptors have had one of the best clutch defenses in the NBA this season. I'll tell you where the problem is. The problem is certainly on the other side of the court. I really just don't think there can be much debate over that aspect of it. It has been, to me, quite quite clear to see that the issue is very much on the other side of the court. Like, let's dig into that recent game against the Chicago Bulls where the Raptors win 110-101. Yeah, they won by 9. Yeah, they covered the spread. Yeah, they only trailed at one point in the game when it was like 30-29 or 31-30. They were trailing by 1. Otherwise, they pretty much led throughout this game. Yes, they were up by 14, and the Bulls got it close late in the fourth, getting it down to 2 points. But the Raptors win by 9 points in a game where they really dominated the turnover battle. They had 9 more turnovers. They forced 9 more turnovers than the Bulls. They scored 9 more points off of those turnovers than the Chicago Bulls. The rebound battle was the same. They took 4 more shots from the field. They took 10 more free throws, yet only won by 9, and the game was quite an uncomfortable one in the end. And the big reason why is just, it's very clearly the Raptors offense is still causing problems for this team. And in particular, those offensive struggles kind of come in the clutch, because in the defense in the clutch has been great this season. They're actually one of the best clutch defenses in the league this season. They've been one of the better clutch teams in the league this season as a whole, and just the reason is, they're just getting so many stops. And they're getting enough stops that they've got one guy who can really carry them over when it comes to those clutch circumstances. So in a game like this, you really had to lean on Brandon Ingram. He put up 31 points for the Raptors on 11 of 26 shooting. Not the most efficient, but he had to just keep firing away and creating his own shot and trying to get his own looks. Like, even Scottie Barnes, who had a bit of a quiet first quarter, was better from that point on at 14 points. But for so much of this game, he goes 5 of 14. But for so much of the game, he had to just get his own looks. Like nothing else was happening anywhere. Quickly was 0 of 4 from 3, 5 of 12. Didn't have a great game. RJ Barrett was only 3 of 10 and 13 points. I think 4 of those came super, super late on in the game. Where somebody asked it on social media yesterday, where would the Raptors be without Brandon Ingram? And the answer is I don't know. He was an all-star this season, of course, as an injury reserve, but still he was an all-star this season, and he's kind of needed to be, because when we get to these late game scenarios, the Raptors have no options essentially other than give it to him and kind of pray. And now teams are becoming more privy to that and doubling him more aggressively. Now it turned into a clutch and one from Colin Murray-Boyles because Brandon Ingram made a nice pass out of it. But there's so much of the offensive load that is put on Brandon Ingram. So I don't want to rag the team for winning by 9 points against the Chicago Bulls too much, because they were excellent on defense. They forced a ton of turnovers. But it shouldn't take this unbelievable display of forcing turnovers and excellent plays on defense from Scottie Barnes and Colin Murray-Boyles throughout the game. It shouldn't take that to grind out a win, because in the end they really did grind this one out against the Bulls, who are a Frankenstein's monster type of team after the trade deadline. There's all these scrap parts being put together or discarded from other teams. That's what the Bulls are right now. Look how different the Bulls are now from a roster perspective than they were a month ago. And Josh Giddey, he came back from injury, yes, but was very bad, and maybe he's not 100% right now. But it was just such a struggle to get over the line against a team that really should not have been that much of a roadblock. It should have been a more convincing display from the Raptors. And I say discarded from other teams. It's not these are high quality assets that the Chicago Bulls are paying up for. These are guys getting dumped to the Chicago Bulls. That's what it is. How else am I supposed to spin it? So again, clearly some issues here for the team, and we're getting into this state where it's so isolation driven by Barnes or Ingram, and it's a continuously shows to us here that the Raptors are capable of beating the lesser teams. They're capable of doing that. They're capable of getting enough stops to do that. But as we've seen in a lot of games recently, when they have to match the scoring and their defense can't quite play to this level against a team like the Pistons or the Knicks or the Celtics, they don't have the offense to sustain the pace of scoring, and that's where issues lie. And it feels like these are very like playoff-style environments, like the clutch moments where they are struggling the most. So, yes, defense is great, and that's a positive. Like, you play well on offense and not as well on defense. I think you look at the game differently, go, wow, they played so well. But when it's the opposite, again, just because we have the evidence of where they've struggled this season, it does become a little bit concerning. There is definitely, like, one of the major problems of this is that there's just a fundamental lack of shooting on this team. Such a lack of shooting on this team. And I think there's a lack of size, which we've talked about enough as well. But, like, the lack of shooting was really on display in that game against the Bulls. The Raptors shot 30% from three in this one. So did the Bulls, granted. But, like, we should be the better team there. We went 7 of 23 from three. Taking 23 threes kind of shows that we were a bit hesitant. We kind of stopped shooting from the outside. We kind of stopped doing that. And kind of alarming when that's the case, only taking 23 when they're kind of just giving you that shot the whole game. Like, the Bulls were content to let the Raptors shoot a lot. Like, I remember watching, like, Isaac Okoro was wide over three a lot, and Patrick Williams, Raptors were mostly content, or at least early, to just kind of like, yeah, you want to shoot, you want to take that three, like, go ahead and take that three. We're gonna be okay with that. We're gonna allow that to happen. Other teams definitely are watching like the Raptors and thinking, yeah, like, just let them keep shooting. It's just that's fine. We'll take that. And whose fault is this? Like, whose fault is it that the Raptors are such a bad three-point shooting team this season? At one point, they were the worst team percentage-wise from beyond the arc this season. Is it the way the roster is constructed, or is it the individuals within the team? Honestly, like, is it really that much on the front office? Like, this was a healthy game for the Raptors. We haven't had a lot of healthy games. This was a healthy game for the Raptors. Sure, Pirtle wasn't 100%, and he came off the bench this one, which was pretty interesting, actually, and he wasn't that much of a factor. But the only player who's on the injury report now is Chucky Hepburn, who is not getting NBA minutes. This is a healthy game, pretty much, as healthy pretty much as they've been this season. And you look at the players in the roster, like, Barnes has been better from three this season than previous season. RJ Barrett is still, 35-ish%, and he takes the open ones, sure. Brandon Ingram's been okay from three, like, kind of as expected. Murray Boy has been better than expected. But then, other than that, like, Quickly has struggled from three this season. He hasn't been as efficient as previous seasons. Jamal Shed is still not a huge threat from deep. He can hit him, but he's not a huge threat from deep. Jacoby Walter has been pretty inconsistent, but, like, decent from three. Mama Kills Food has been great. Gradey Dick has been very poor from three. So, like, I look at the team here, and I think, like, okay, clearly the starting five, we're missing some shooting. Like, with Murray Boyles instead of Pearl, there's even, like, maybe a fraction more. But a lot of the burden of shooting for the starting five was on Emmanuel Quickley, who has not risen up to that. RJ Barrett's been okay. Sky Barnes has been fine, as has Brandon Ingram. That's not quite been enough. Where we really needed the shooting to come from was off the bench. And, like, there are guys who can shoot, like Jacoby Walter. Probably could have been more consistent. Gradey Dick has been incredibly underwhelming. We'll talk about him a lot later on in this stream. Mambu's been great as a signing. So I don't really, like, I think we accepted that the starting five was just going to be missing some of that because Brandon Ingram was just available at such a good deal last year, the trade deadline. Like, he kind of had to take it. They've, like, really tried to move on from RJ Barrett, and maybe that some more shooting could have been injected into the starting five if that had happened. But, like, a lot of the low was on Emmanuel Quickley. He's talked about preseason how he needed to shoot more. He's not shooting more from three, and for good reason, because he's not hitting a lot this season. Off the bench, Gradey Dick is supposed to be, like, your main shooter. Like, that's what you do. That's what you do. And he's not hitting threes nearly consistent enough this season. They signed a guy, Mama, who is hitting his shots and is helping space the floor. They drafted Jacoby Walter as well to kind of help with this. Like, I feel like they've done some pretty good work towards adding shooting to this team. So, are there things that the front office hasn't addressed and kind of needs, could they inject some more shooting? Sure, but I think they've done a decent job with it, all things considered. At a certain point, the players just need to do it. So I'm kind of just wondering, and I'm going to ask, and I don't have the answer for this, what is it about this team that they're just unable to hit threes? It's not like they aren't scheming open looks. They are doing that plenty, and they did it plenty against the Bulls, guys are just not knocking down shots? Is it just a lot of players coincidentally aren't having a good shooting season? Is there something about the coaching, something about the mechanics that are being changed? I don't have the answer to this side of things, but to this thing. But again, we're looking at the NBA saying we're looking at a potential playoff first round. And these sorts of things, like, we're going to look back and think this could have cost us in a series. So frustrating, but at least the defense is still there. There are positives here. It's just like there's still a lot of questions about the offense. And where do you go if you can't just give the ball to Brandon Ingram and pray he bails you out? Like, what happens when he doesn't? Well, what happens when he doesn't? You have games like the one where you blow the lead against Orlando. You blow the lead against the Knicks. You blow the lead against the Timberwolves. Those sorts of games happen, and it feels like they're happening a little bit too frequently for the Raptors. So what do? I don't know. I think right now I just got to hope some of these guys just start hitting more of their shots. I think that's all you really can do as a Raptors fan right now. I mean, Gradey Dick in particular, good Lord. And I said we're gonna touch on his play a little bit more later on, but good Lord. That's been we'll do it soon actually, but that's been like the most alarming one, really. We're not a playoff team. Usually teams that make the playoffs are playoff teams. That's how I would go about it. And the Raptors have a really, really, really good, really, really high likelihood of making the playoffs right now. I think if you make the playoffs, you're probably a playoff team. It's debatable, but if you're there, you're in the playoffs, you're a playoff team to me. So say start fucking acting like it, Can't just keep using the rebuild talk as a cop-out. Like, at a certain point, you are here. You are a playoff team. No more excuses. Like, you're here now. So we'd like to start trying to win some games. Still rebuilding. I didn't say they weren't still rebuilding, but they are a 5th seed. They are trying to win games. Right? Do you think RJ stays if he takes a pay cut? I don't think anything's keeping him. I just don't think the front office wants him. I don't think there's a mutual desire to keep this relationship going. I would be pretty stunned if we got to the end of RJ's contract and he was still here. I'd be pretty stunned. I think the Raptors will really value having that contract as an expiring one next season. I think his value goes up next season because it's an expiring contract, and teams will value freeing up the cap space at the end of the season. So I don't see how he ends up staying. I don't see a pay cut even working there. I think Raptor will trade RJ in the offseason or towards the trade deadline next season. I think that's quite likely. Yes. Should have gone IO. I do wonder if they could have gone for someone like that. I'm not sure. See, Steven, does RJ look not 100% or just disengaged due to uncertainty of remaining on team? He hasn't looked quite the same since he rolled his ankle. I will say it still feels like he's not just, I'll say, naturally going into contact like he was. Like, he's a real wrecking ball at times, and since he picked up that ankle injury, he's felt hesitant. I think that's the better word. He's felt hesitant, and he's thinking about things. Like, when an athlete is at their best, they don't think, they just execute naturally. They think subconsciously. They're not consciously worried about like each individual movement they're doing. They just go and execute. That's when an athlete is at their best, and it feels like right now he is not kind of in that flow state as a player, and perhaps it is injury related. But like in that game against the Bulls, what I was actually quite pleased with about the way Darko coached this game is he wasn't married to his rotation like he had been. Like, a lot of times I take issue that Darko like will not adjust his rotation based on how the game is going. So you got someone on the bench with a hot hand. Well, fuck it. It's his time. The rotation says he comes out at this time, so get him the fuck out of the game. This guy's playing like shit. Well, he's supposed to still be on the court, so just leave him there. he was a lot less hesitant to just stick to the rotation in this game. So he was comfortable late, like briefly putting in Jacoby Walter to add in a bit of defense. He was comfortable late and he's been comfortable late this season, having Jamal Shed close some games. And RJ Barrett was sitting for a little bit of the clutch. And then as the offense kind of just forgot how to score, they brought RJ Barrett back in. And some points started. I think it was like 103, 101 when RJ Barrett came in. Maybe I'm wrong, but let me see if can we actually pick up exactly when he came in just to maybe just prove the point. But I'll search for it myself. I don't even know if there's subs on here, but they brought him in late, and just to try to inject something into the offense. So I do give Darko some credit for, at least on this occasion, he was willing to make necessary adjustments to the rotation to try and get them over the line in the game. That was great to see. I don't think the ESPN play-by-play has the substitutions on here. So anyways, we can't verify, but anyways, my point is he came in when we needed some help with the offense, and I think there was a little bit of help that he did bring to that offense. So anyways, good to see them win. Obviously, nice to see the Raptors come back and win a game and win by 9. They covered as well, but just not convincing still. And when there is uncertainty about the team and some of the recent results, you want them to be convincing. But you know what? Also, credit where credit is due. They continue to just beat every team they need to beat. All the teams that they're better than, that they're supposed to beat, they continue to beat them. They have faltered very irregularly this season. They have typically, let's go back through the schedule here. What are the losses in the schedule? They lost to the Pistons. Okay, that's the top seed in the East. Lost to the Minnesota, playoff team in the West. Context, obviously they fumbled a few of these games, but losable games. Orlando is probably a playoff team in the East. New York is ahead of us in the standings. Lakers and Clippers at the time were one of the best teams in the league. The Lakers, probably a playoff team in the West. Philly, okay, maybe that's one you maybe should win, but it's not an egregious team to lose to. Boston are higher than us. This Denver loss was bad, no question. They had nobody available and beat us. We should have won that game. This Washington loss was very, very bad. We know that, as was the Brooklyn one here, of course. But since the start of 2026, we're beating the teams we need to beat. Even going back further, there's not a ton of maybe sorry, but not a ton of losses that are against that are ugly. Hey, how the hell did you lose to that team? Sure, there are games how the hell did you lose that, considering you're up by 15 in the fourth quarter or something, but they have done a very, very good job of taking care of business, we'll say. So that is a positive. That is often the mark of a good team as well. But I think that it's just the defense continuing to carry them over the line in some of these. Teams argument may not want to take any risk of more injuries for a team that doesn't want him. New contract negotiations looming. It's possible that's playing on his mind. I don't know. I wouldn't believe that myself. I could see it, but personally, I just think he's not quite 100% at the moment, and that's why he maybe hasn't been at full throttle lately. But he did just have a week off, so maybe he just didn't play well too. I don't know. I don't think that's playing on his mind. He needs to not be hurt. He needs to stay healthy. I think he still wants to execute for the team. And I think, to be honest, we're talking about contracts. RJ Barrett's valuation right now is probably a lot lower than he wants it to be. So it would be more wise for RJ to play harder to earn more respect in market, to get a bigger contract as negotiations start to loom, to be honest. Go back to some of the, there are a couple bad losses, but really none in 2026 that are truly pre-game. If you said they'd lose, it wasn't there's no heinous sort of losses within that. Sure, again, there are the Wizards and next one, which are really bad, but they have been very consistent in beating teams they're better than, which is great. I should trade Jakob, RJ, and IQ. Well, they certainly tried to trade Pirtle and RJ. It just didn't materialize. But as I've been saying, RJ becomes more valuable and more likely to get traded next season because of his contract situation. If you guys are enjoying so far, please make sure you've hit the like button. It makes a difference to the channel. It drives us up in the YouTube algorithm. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. I'm live 3 times a week for shows like this, and I'm live for Raptors games in the form of watch parties. All right, halfway stage or so of the stream today. Let's take a moment here to talk about the raffle that I'm getting involved with for charity. Got reached out to by the family of this 4-year-old child, Lucas. Lucas is currently dealing with an ultra-rare genetic disease. He's only 1 or 2 in the world documented to have this. It's impairing his ability to walk, talk, stand, do basic daily functions, losing his motor skills. And these are skills that he has had previously but are deteriorating as a result of this condition. There's no treatment or research at this point because of how ultra-rare that it is. So his family is trying to fund the research and the development of the gene therapy for him. It's going to be very costly, so they're doing what they can to raise funds here. Now, how you can get involved, first of all, you can go to the links in the description where I have the GoFundMe link for Lucas, but also for you as Raptors fans, what's exciting about the opportunity here is that there is a private box available for the April 12th game at the Scotiabank Arena against the Brooklyn Nets. You'll get 8 tickets for a box to value of $3,500 if you win the raffle. $25 for 1 ticket, $50 for 3 tickets, $100 for 10 tickets for this raffle. Again, 8 tickets for this private box just for you and your guests, private entrance to the stadium, and 100% of proceeds are going towards the funding of the research and the development of the gene therapy for him. If you want to get involved with the raffle, you got to go to the Instagram at Let's Cure Lucas. I've also linked the description in the description box down below. DM that account at Let's Cure Lucas to get the information to enter the raffle. Provide some support here for our fellow members of the Raptors community, and maybe you get yourself a sweet gig for that April 12th game against the Brooklyn Nets. Any support, if you have the means to do so, would be excellent, and you'd be going a long way to help with this condition for not just Lucas, but maybe future people who have to suffer with this condition. All right, getting back into things. I told you earlier, guys. I did want to talk a little bit further on the subject of Gradey Dick because I don't think I've talked about this enough. Like, I feel like in watch-alongs and just watching games, it's just become so standard to see Gradey Dick not performing well. It's not even like he's just underperforming or anything. Like, this is just his standard. And we had another really poor performance in the recent win over the Chicago Bulls from Gradey Dick, and it's starting to get to the point where how can you justify playing this guy sometimes? Let's try and figure out what's going on. Rookie season, Gradey Dick, there was ups and downs for sure, but didn't start the greatest in the NBA. Went down to the G League, got some good reps, got some good play time. Came back up to the NBA and started playing quite well for the Raptors. There was quite a good amount of promise shown in his rookie season, at least enough to really believe in the player going forward. Then in his second season, Gradey Dick burst out the gates, was excellent to start the season, was in like serious contention for the most improved player award near the start of the season. Yes, he tailed off a little bit, but still put on like a fantastic season for the Raptors. His role changed this year. The acquisition of Brandon Ingram has made it so that he is no longer a starter. Every game he played last season, he was a starter. But still, have to understand the role is a little bit different. But, I'm sure he would accept that role. You're bringing in an all-star in Brandon Ingram. And I thought that shooting injection off the bench would be like a pretty good role for Gradey Dick, but it has not materialized in the slightest. And Gradey Dick is having an awful season for the Raptors. There's really no other way to put it here. 8.5 points per game in his rookie season. 14.4 last season in 54 games. Shot 36% from three in his first season, 35% in his second season. This season, though, he's down to 31% shooting from three. He's averaging 6 points a game. Minutes are down, and for good reason. Like, it's really tough to justify playing him right now. Like, you even go to true shooting, it's under 55%. Like, he's struggling here. He really is struggling here. And it's alarming because, you really want young players' trajectory to be, going upward. You want to see the improvements on a year-to-year basis. And success is not necessarily always linear, but it's just alarming how ineffective he is on the court in so many of these games for the Raptors. Let's take this one in the recent game against the Bulls. Gradey Dick gets 9 minutes, 0 of 3 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3. Yeah, he had 5 rebounds. And you know what? To his credit, more recently in his games, he's been hustling more, trying to make the little plays that can make a difference. But let's be honest here. When the Raptors drafted Gradey Dick 13th overall, they drafted him for his shooting. They were drafting him for the three-point shooting, for the outside threat. And they were hoping other things would come along in his game. But at this point in year 3 of his career, the other parts of his game are just like not coming along at all. And the biggest thing is he's just such a liability defensively. Just such a liability defensively for this team. And, you could question, like, his minutes are sporadic. It's tough for him to get in rhythm. Okay, maybe that can play on it a little bit, but you got to earn those minutes. This isn't a charity. We're not a tanking team. We're a 5th seed right now. We're trying to win games. So if you're not out there producing winning basketball, if we're 2/3 of the way through the season, we've got a large sample of what you can do this season. At a certain point, like, you just got to play better. You need to do more. And for Gradey Dick, his game revolves around his ability to shoot threes and his ability to space the floor. That's what gives him more space to attack closeouts. And that's what allows us, or maybe makes us want to play him in spite of the poor defense. Like I said, when he's not hitting threes, he's just not giving you anything. And he is such a liability defensively. The defense, maybe it has gotten better, but like, it's still nowhere near good enough to justify on the court for this team. And it makes me wonder, like, looking through the roster, it makes me wonder, like, what is Gradey Dick doing for us right now that somebody like, I'm not saying Jamison Battle is this outrageous player, but like, what is Gradey Dick doing in 9 minutes here that Jamison Battle couldn't provide? Because at the very least, Jamison Battle is a more sound defensive player than Gradey Dick. Is he, less of the hustle player? Is he less of a threat off the dribble? Is he not as effective in connecting the offense? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. But to me, maybe I just need to see it a little bit more and larger sample. I don't know what it is. But like, to me, I'm just kind of wondering, what is it that we are getting from Gradey Dick's minutes that could not be provided by Jamison Battle? Because clearly, the Gradey Dick minutes, like, clearly he's not playing well. To be honest, the minutes that Gradey Dick has played this season probably haven't been that bad. I remember the start of the season, as bad as Gradey Dick was playing, the Raptors were doing well in his minutes. Maybe it was a small sample, maybe because that, his floor spacing is important for the team, and that's a value add to the team. But I feel like also that could be the case with Jamison Battle. On-off is just the net rating, just simple way to kind of gauge, a good base to start and gauge how a player's effectiveness on the floor. Net rating of 2.7 with him on the floor, 1.2 with him off the floor. Not a big difference, but like, again, maybe a little bit better with him on the floor. What is it about? Our shooting percentages are relatively the same. Opposition shooting percentages actually drop quite a bit from 3 when he's on the floor, which I wasn't expecting. Not really sure why that's the case. Maybe just coincidence. Maybe he has an influence. I don't think it's much of an influence on him, but just interesting statistics to go through overall. I think it's clear to see when you watch him. I think it's clear to see looking at stats that he's not playing well. And doesn't mean it's over for him, but like I did kind of want to see maybe Jamison Battle get a run of those minutes. We're not going to see that happen, though, because the news today is that Jamison Battle is not going to be spending some time with the Raptors 905, which hasn't happened. I don't think it's happened at all this season. So, yes, the article does say here, first time that he's been sent down to play with the G League affiliate, the Raptors 905. Yeah, I mean, sure, if he's not going to play, get him his minutes there, get him working with the 905, get the reps up for sure. But again, it's just like, is he really not going to be able to do what Gradey Dick is doing for us out there? Maybe he can't, but I just want that proven before this. So they continue to roll with Gradey Dick here. Maybe it's just belief in the potential there that you want to continue to play him because you know what the capabilities are there. But at the moment for Gradey, like it's definitely not bleak, but at what point does it start to get there? You know, he's in the third year of his rookie contract. I think it'd be, I don't really love the idea of him on $7.1 million next year, but I think it'd be a little bit early to just give up on a player you drafted 13th overall. So, you know, not saying we're there yet where it's time to cut him, time to release him, time to move on or anything like that. But once that rookie contract is done, like if it doesn't change for him next season, I think there will be questions about whether or not he has a future in the NBA. He's a great player with great ability who has not shown it this season, but, you know, welcome to the league. You have to show it. You have to be able to produce on the court. He is not doing that for the Raptors. And it's a Raptors team that is very, very much lacking in shooting. And he was supposed to be an incredibly important piece because we're missing so much shooting. We need him to be able to produce it, to help us, to alleviate the constraints we have with shooting. But he hasn't done that. And it's concerning. You know, I'm not labeling him a bust. I'm not saying, again, it's time to cut him. It's time to get rid of him. But it's very, very concerning at this point. And like I said, as far as this season is concerned, I'm ready to try something new. I kind of want that new thing to be Jamison Battle. But obviously, with him going to the G League, the team does not feel the same way. Right? Yes, Canada won today. We talked about that earlier, but yes, Canada won today in men's hockey. That was a very clutch comeback. Yes, indeed. Hopefully, Crosby is back for that gold medal game. How much did? What is this? How much did I pay? Sheridan Forbes. I did not pay it all. But thank you for the reminder to hit the like button. Appreciate that. It's a good reminder for everyone. You should just do it, right? Why not? Support your boy. Finley coach for the challenge, the last goal. It was freaking close. Like, it was one frame away from being offside. And I mean, at that point, there's 30 seconds left. Like, sure, you don't want to be down a man if you lose, but like, you don't have much to lose. You may as well give it a go on the challenge, something that close. I was pretty convinced they weren't going to overturn it, but on the replay, like, wow, it was tight. It really was. Celebrini did not do a good enough job of making sure by holding his foot back. That easily could have gone the other way. In like a split second. But the frame that we got from the camera does show that he was just onside. How do we feel about the first goal? The what's it? The second goal? Oh my god, why am I blanking? No, the second goal, the Shea Theodore goal, the alleged goaltender interference from Brad Marchand. I feel like Finland had a case there. I'm not going to lie. They didn't challenge it, but he did fall over the goalie. And then shortly after, Shea Theodore, clapped one into the back of the net. That was a bit dicey as well. I think, a little bit. But also, Finland went up 2-0 and started playing like pussies. They stopped they stopped playing at all. So maybe you get what you deserve in the end. All right, last thing I want to discuss on today's show. The new rules that the NBA is considering implementing to take away tanking from the game. So we got this originally from Shams Charania. Commissioner Adam Silver informed the League's 30 general managers that the NBA plans to make anti-tanking rule changes for next season. Tanking has been bad. Tanking is a problem. It has been bad for the league. It's bad. It's been really bad this season. I like how the NBA is working on removing tanking. However, I'm not sure a lot of the things they're discussing will really help that. Here are the things they've discussed as ways to curb tanking in the NBA. I'll go through them one by one and discuss what I think about them. First of all, first round picks can be protected only top 4 or top 14. Doesn't do much because you'll have teams that will still tank to go to bottom 14, or teams that will tank to ensure that they are in the bottom 4. Now, even if you're the worst team in the NBA, you only have a 52% chance of keeping your pick if it's top 4 protected. So sure, that might decentivize it a little bit, but I think if you're bad, what do you have to lose? You're not going to make the playoffs potentially anyways. You may as well try and keep your pick, especially your top 4 pick. I don't think that does much. Lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline or a later date. I hate this one because if I'm coming into this season like the Jazz, I'm probably just going to tank right at the start of the season. Tank earlier. Now we're just making the tanking happen way earlier in the season, which I don't think solves things as well. No longer allowing a team to pick top 4 in consecutive years and or after consecutive bottom 3 finishes. Again, it's like if you're bad, what do you have to lose? Like if I pick top 4 this year and next year I still suck. Well, I may not be able to pick top 4, but I could certainly still pick 5th. That's still a pretty good draft pick. Like I don't think the fact that I can't get a top 4 pick, I don't think that deters my team. If I'm not a playoff team, I'm still going to take my shot at the draft probably. Teams can't pick top 4 the year after making the conference finals. That's like just a weird one. It's a rare occurrence for something like that to happen. But like, you know, sometimes like the Pacers got to a game 7 of the NBA Finals. Well, their star player blew out his fucking Achilles in the game. Sometimes things are a bit beyond your control. Don't love that. Lottery odds allocated based on 2-year records. Sure, like, you know, you have less of an instant reward, but still, I know I'm getting that reward in 2 years, so I can still tank. I don't really love those. At a certain point, I'm looking through a bunch of these, and just like, I said this yesterday, but have we gone too far? Are we jumping the shark with some of this stuff? Kind of feels like that sometimes. But the last two, I'm a fan of. I gotta say, I kind of like these ones. Lottery extended to include all play-in teams. I think that's a great one. I am much more likely to try and make the play-in tournament because I can make the playoffs and still get a lottery pick. I like that a lot because I think there's a lot of teams right now that just, why do I want to make the play-in? I'd rather have a better chance at the draft. You get that chance to draft, and you might still be able to make the playoffs. And the teams that are top 6, not in the play-in, I think will be fine just increasing their seed. I think being the 6th seed versus the 7th seed is a large enough reward for teams to not want to be tanking from like 6th seed to 7th seed, for instance. So I like that. I think that will actually help with tanking quite a lot. And I think it helps a lot if it's used in conjunction with this last one here, flatten odds for all lottery teams. So long as there is an incentive to lose, and as of right now, there is an incentive to lose. There is a reward for losing. That is not how sports should be done. We're in this era of participation awards and whatnot, and people not liking that. Well, how about all North American sports being ingrained with this reward for losing? Not like participation. You are rewarded for being bad. The worse you are, the better. So long as that is the case, why would teams not tank? My team sucks. We're not going to make the playoffs. I'd rather get a better pick, and guess what? Losing helps me do that. So I'm comfortable being shit and making myself even more shit to get that pick. So flattening the lottery odds takes away that reward for being bad. Because if you're a playing team, I mean, to be honest, I think if it's all flat, I think as a 6th seed, I'm kind of looking like, well, I don't know, the 7th seed does look pretty interesting. But I think like the guaranteed playoff spot and the higher seed does entice enough teams to avoid the play-in tournament there. But those two are interesting. I kind of like those together. I've radicalized a lot on this one, I think. I would support just getting rid of the draft. Salary cap still exists. Put a limit on how many players you can sign that declare to enter the NBA. But I just think you need to take away the reward for being bad. And I think taking away the draft does that. You could talk about the big markets and the best teams that's going to get the best players. Sure, maybe that's part of it, but there's busts that exist. You know, it's not always a sure thing. Then you have players like Wemby, which could fuck things up. But, you know, maybe that's the sacrifice we have to make. And you know what? Like I said, I'm done with being rewarded for losing. Maybe the teams that are really good and the teams that are the biggest markets, maybe they've done a good job of forming themselves into a big market. You know, just being present in that location doesn't make it a big market necessarily. Like, look at the Clippers. They're in LA too. They're not nearly as big of a market as the Lakers are. And maybe the Lakers have earned the right to be a big market team for their successful history. Sometimes we need to reward a team for being good. Maybe because they're good, they deserve to be able to be attractive to these free destinations. So now, how are you as an organization going to make yourself better to be more attractive to these rookie free agents? Maybe winning more basketball games makes you more attractive. Maybe the playoffs becomes a lot more competitive because, well, now there's no incentive to be bad. I really want to get into the play-in tournament. Now the play-in tournament becomes like a real battle to try and get into for every team in the NBA. Near the end of the season, like maybe I'm eliminated. Maybe those games will matter a bit less, but who cares? These guys are playing for contracts. They're still trying to win. So long as there is an incentive to lose, teams will try to lose because there's a reward for it. Take away the draft, there's no reward for it. I would be that aggressive, and I would look into implementing that. Not sure like how you probably have to like prepare teams like years in advance. You got 3 years. You got 3 years to get ready because after that, no more draft, and you gotta figure out how you are gonna make this team more attractive for those free agents. And there's salary cap, so you can't just sign everybody, but also, like I said, if you're a good team, maybe you've earned the right to get those high-quality rookies because you've made your team more attractive for them to sign for. If you're not enticing those rookies, maybe you got to look at yourself and say, well, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? What am I not doing right here? Maybe that's how we should treat things. Okay, guys, that is it from me for today. That is it from me for the week. Sunday, the Raptors play. I am away. I'm not away. I'm just not available to stream. So I will not be streaming for the Sunday game against the Milwaukee Bucks. I will, however, be back for the Monday happy hour stream. So I hope to catch you guys at that one. Actually, the Raptors play Tuesday, I think, after that. Yeah, Tuesday against the Thunder. I will also be available. So some fun content away. Big push for the rest of the season. If you guys enjoyed the stream, please make sure you've hit the like button. It makes a huge difference to the channel. Subscribe for more content like it, and check out the Let's Cure Lucas Instagram page, which I've linked in the description below.